Online art teacher and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals, but it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college-level course, it's better than a college-level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon. Hello, hello, hello. Let me check my audio levels here. How do I sound? Testing, testing. Let me move this over here for a second. Testing, testing. I'm speaking. This is me talking. Hi, everybody. How do I sound? Do I sound all right? I'm streaming. I'm live on the internet. Move my... How do I feel like drawing today? Do I want to be this way? I think I'm going to pull this a little closer. Hello to Polar Bear, Terrace, N. Schaefer, Samir, Bakhtiar, Eric, Arctic Monkey, Dino Blaster, Samir, Dama, Discbreaker, Dylan, Elpis, Rappy, Matej, and Colin. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right, we're chilling. Sliding this over. I want that over there. I'm closing this. I might turn on another light, but kind of like the dim sketchbooking right now. That looks a bit better. Stephen, what do you personally think about oil painting as a medium? What are your experiences with it? I've done a bit of oil painting. I like it. I think it's a great medium. I'm not any good at it, but I think it's an excellent medium. It's very flexible. I'd like to do more of it, but I haven't gotten back to it recently. Hi, Stephen. I'm curious. When it comes to doing client work, what percentage of the time do you use reference versus drawing from imagination? It depends on the client work. You use reference constantly. Especially a lot of client work, especially stuff for big companies. Then they'll often have an art director, and the art director is the one who works directly with you, and art directors collect a lot of reference. So I don't know, in my experience, it's very rare to come on a job and not have the AD give you a bunch of references that they've collected. Rabbi says, you probably got this question before, but what is your favorite Lovecraft story? You know, one of the first ones I ever read, I think the first one I ever read was Call of Cthulhu, but I think probably Mountains of Madness was my second or third one that I ever read, and I think that's still my favorite. Hello, Renola. Hello, Mustafa. How was DC, Stephen? Is there any updates to AI stuff? DC went well. It was definitely progress, I would say. It felt less educational than the first time I went to DC. People were much more up on what's going on with AI. They were much more interested in hearing solutions and hearing commentary on proposed bills and regulations and things like that. Not regulations. No one's really proposed tight really concrete regulation, but like people have presented resolutions and stuff like that for frameworks to then regulate. Nothing binding or enforceable or anything like that. If you've been keeping up with this stuff, then you've heard of them. But people were still looking for comments on those. Like, do we think it's good? Do we think it's enough? Things like that. So that was good. There were other things we were disappointed by, you know, places where we wish we had been invited to speak or represent at the table and things like that, which we were not, and we pushed back on things like that. And that's probably all I could say about those topics. The other stuff I wouldn't be able to talk about unless the specific offices that we spoke to would talk about it first. But it went very well. It's just slow. It's slow work, you know? The wheels of government turn slowly. Must be patient, but it's hard to be patient when things feel so urgent. We might watch some Maya, Aztec, and Inca history videos together here in a bit, but I don't know yet. I fixed my fountain pen. It was real gummed up the last time I tried to use it on stream. Dash Vinci says, have you ever had an existential crisis? Please. When am I not in an existential crisis? I mean, well, is existential crisis the right word? It's more like, I don't know, I maybe not a crisis, but I have existential thoughts basically daily. I think just, they're so commonplace at this point that I don't consider them crises in any way, you know? I'm gonna open my window a little wider. Give me a second. Just a little bit more light in here. Free light. Shut up, you damn light. This way it's a little baseline brighter in here without having to have my lights chirping at me as their little fans spin up. Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year. Wow. Did they do a trailer for the Elden Ring DLC? I don't think so, right? I'm sure I would have heard of it. I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. It's in the case for break in case of flu. You know, this is what you're gonna play for a week next time you're horribly sick. Yankee says, my props to your editor, Steven. The Banana Bread Saga was beautiful. I thought he did a great job. I loved it. When he sent me that, I was dying laughing. I thought the animation on the idiot that gets out of the car was awesome. Good job, Cinder. Hello, Autumn Rose. No, but there was God of War DLC trailer. It's a free roguelike DLC. That's interesting. When does that come out? I usually don't like that kind of stuff. I mean, like in God of War, what is it, 5? what do we just call it? We're just calling it God of War 2 now. God of War Ragnarok. I didn't do any of the trials things. I never do that stuff in games. I'm just there to see new art. Anything like a trials where it's like in the same arena over and over again, I'm never gonna do it. The only thing I ever did anything like that in was Chalice Dungeons in Bloodborne. If it's anything like that, I'll do that again. I'll do that in the God of War DLC. God of War is one of the best looking games though. Ooh, and it runs, on my TV, it runs at a super high FPS. It runs at like 90 FPS on my TV. I might just want to keep playing it even if I'm not that interested, because just to see those beautiful colors and design again. My TV broke the other day though, so hopefully the DLC comes after the service guy comes and fixes my TV. Stupid thing. Can't trust anything these days. You know, you think you're being safe buying something high quality. It'll still just go and break from one night to the other. You into the new God of War series, anything, Steven? I played both. I played the reboot and Ragnarok. December, so it's right around the corner. Oh, sheesh. Loving these designs. Thank you, John Cat. Have you ever seen ancient Cambodian architecture? The Angkor Wat is a great example and was used as inspiration for Lost Izalith of Dark Souls 1. Yes. Yes, I've seen Cambodian, and Angkor Wat is awesome. It is Angkor Wat has to be one of the most heavily referenced architectural things in entertainment design history. It's in like it's in so many, anything that's vaguely ruins or ancient looking or lost anything. Angkor Wat is always in the reference deck for that. If you come onto a project or something like that. I've been doing a bunch of these little things. I'm trying to find a form language for the Mayan inspired portion of a project that I'm doing. I got some guys over here too. I got some guys there. Trying to do some weird things with it. I'm trying to find the balance of detail versus open areas. Like something like that is more heavily detailed. This is like representational, monumental aspects. And then something like this is more detail is sort of limited, and then you get bigger, flat areas. I like it's kind of a cool look. It's a very severe look. It feels like, I don't know, this sketch I thought it felt like Mayan brutalism or something like that, but I don't love flat. I'm not disciplined with my use of ornament. I love to do a lot of ornament because it's really fun to draw for me. So I don't know, gotta explore more. The only thing you can do is keep hunting. I like the OG God of War games, God of War more as a game. I never played them. Did I? I don't think I ever played the original God of War games. I saw them getting played a lot because my friends in high school loved them. So I'm very familiar with them, but I never actually played them. Colma says, Stephen, I think after listening to the drawing meditations for so long, I have developed a Pavlovian response that I must draw when I hear your voice. That's one, I mean, that is exactly what I intended. I hope that that is the case. Let's quadruple and 5-tuple the amount of that. Edward says, I respect your rendering very much. It appreciates your respect, truly. Polar Bear says, I still wait for the game and movie about the Mesopotamian and Anatolian mythology. That'd be awesome. When are they ever going to get around to that? Tough sell to today's audiences, I think, unfortunately. People are really losing their taste for, you know, that sounds like you'd have to make an epic, right? And people are really losing their taste for epics these days. No one wants to spend that much time in the theater anymore. Everyone wants to second screen their media, you know, they want to be on their phones while they watch. I hate that feeling. I do it too. Just like whenever I catch myself, I'm like, oh, God damn this. Throw my phone to the other side of the couch. It's gotten so bad that my wife and I have a running joke where we say to each other, like, you must be more mindful while you watch television. It's like, that's how bad things have gotten. I'm struggling to mindfully watch television now. Like, are we gonna be okay? For real, are we gonna be okay? Are you into digital more or physical copies? Digital more or physical copies? You mean of movies? I don't have any physical copies of movies anymore. I live in New York City. Storage is at a premium here. I gotta be very judicious about what I keep around. Hey, Stephen, do you think you should try and render an image even if you don't know much about it yet? It's all about trying, right? If rendering is going to be important to you, if you're going to be that kind of artist, and you know, even if you haven't done a lot of it, you might just know that you're very interested in rendering. I was always interested. I liked making things look real and volumetric. So even early on, I could be sure rendering was going to be important to me. If it's going to be important, you got to practice it. But not everybody's a rendering artist. You know, if you find rendering... So I was about to say, if you find rendering horribly boring, you shouldn't worry about it. But the truth is that a lot of people find rendering horribly boring because they haven't fine-tuned the way they render enough to make it fun. There is a way to make it fun if you sort of... If you make sure rendering isn't a rote process, but that you're adding information as you render, then it just feels like sketching and it can be extremely fun. Test run that enterprise. But if you try that and you still just don't find rendering fun or enjoyable, it's okay to accept that you're not gonna be a renderer and just never do it. You know, you can be a sketch-based artist. You know, there's lots of beloved art in the world is just simple drawings that are unrendered, and there's lots of jobs that only need drawing and don't need any rendering. It's perfectly fine to do things like that. Good to hear even the great Zapata struggles as us mortals do. Dude, why do you think I talk about this stuff so much on my YouTube? It's, you teach best what you most need to learn. You know, I care about mindfulness and focus and paying attention and, you know, calibrating your values and being joyful in art because I struggled with it mightily and still do. You know, that's why I care. I wouldn't care if it had been easy for me. I think that produces a lot of the confusion in art as well. You know, a lot of the artists who focus too much on talking about like skills and things like that are it's funny, they're often the kinds of artists who they intuitively do only what's fun for them and really focus on their joy, and they never struggled with that. So the skills are the only thing they think about, so that's the only thing they teach. And when they find out that their students are not paying attention to making art fun, if they ever get to the level where they have that explicit conversation, they often look at their students like, "You're doing what? What? You're not having fun with the stuff you draw? You're bored? Why would you?" It blows their mind. They're like, "Why would you not make sure you're having fun and doing things you care about?" It's like, it never even occurred to them that that could happen, so they never talk about it, and that actually winds up throwing students astray sometimes. All the mind stuff, I talk about it because I struggled with it, because I got it all wrong for years and years and years. Hi, Stephen. You talked about being creative not really being you creating. When being deliberate in drawing, is the muscle memory, familiarity, and comfort? Is the muscle memory, familiarity, and comfort, or having the right form in your head? Or the idea that when you're being creative, all right, questions like that always require me to restate my foundational personal feelings on things. So I'm gonna say them. Yeah, people who have been around a long time on the channel and watched the deep cut videos and stuff like that, they know that, but I feel it's important to say this stuff. Again, not because I need you to believe these things, but to explain my stance. I don't believe in free will, and I don't believe there's a robust self, like there's some sort of magical floating agent or anything like that, which tracks with not believing in free will. So the idea that there would be a you creating sort of falls apart for me right at the beginning. It doesn't track with my ground floor worldview, with my personal outlook. And I think that that is explicitly experienced by people in the state of flow, where you really, you look back on it and consciously you see that you disappeared, that you weren't around, and that you were doing the most complicated thing that you're capable of, creating the illusion of three-dimensional form on flat pieces of paper, a very complicated thing to do. When you go into flow, you look back and you realize you did that without being consciously present. That time sort of blinks by. Even worse than that, often you look back and you found that you did it better when you were not present, as opposed to when you are nervously, anxiously trying to control everything. That is what I am pointing at, or what I'm trying to get at when I say that it's not really you making the stuff. It can feel that way at any given time, most of the time. It feels that way, but in my opinion, that is an abstraction, an emergent quality, an added layer, the story of us and our personalities and things like that. And that's not necessarily explicitly true. What is going on? I don't know. I don't make any hard assertions to understand what the hell is actually going on, but I don't think it's what it seems. Again, I don't need any of you to agree with me on any of that or believe that. That's just, that's how I need to explain. When it comes to those weird ground floor assertions that I've made like that, there's no other way for me to get at what I'm pointing at than sort of rewinding all the way back down to the core. Do you have any fun facts about Mayan architecture or culture? I do not have fun facts. I'm really not super, besides the form language that I've gathered from visuals, I'm not super educated on it. That's why I said we might watch a few YouTube videos about Maya, Inca, and Aztec history here on the stream. Just because I need to do more research on that, and who knows, maybe I can provide some insights if we watch a few together. The design process is always heavy on research, so. Someone has probably asked this a million times, what pen is that? This is the Pilot Lucina. Pilot is the manufacturer, the Lucina is the model. You can see it written there. I don't know how clear that is. No, it's pretty dark. It's Lucina, and this is the fine tip Pilot Lucina. I'm afraid to remark on the fact that stream is not crashing so far. Now it's going to crash? Okay, good. Been having a lot of crashes lately. Seems to be working right now, right? I don't care. I'm not a superstitious guy. If it's going to have problems, if the goblins are going to get called down, I need to face them down anyway, so just gonna talk about it, not be superstitious. Stream looks good, sounds good, right? Smooth for everybody. Clear, inglorious 4K. Audio sounds good. Everything looks good to everybody. No buffering for eye nocturne, good. Can't be superstitious about this stuff. It was very funny. Last stream we did, the second I mentioned it after it had been running well from the beginning of stream, it immediately dumped out. Like as I was saying, hey, it looks good. Looks fantastic, sound muy perfecto, good. That's great. Are you able to get even finer lines with it by using the back of the nib? Yeah, you can. It's very subtle. Go to, it's like that's the regular end, and if you turn it upside down, yeah, you get a slightly thinner line. It does give you that. I don't usually use that though. It's like, it's not enough of a difference to warrant sort of annoyingly flipping the pen over and all that. And if you use it if you do that for too long, like if you do a bunch of hatching with that, the ink, since it's upside down, the ink pools at the top of the pen, and I don't like that, because then I don't know, I feel like if it pools at the top of the pen, it like dries faster, makes a clump if you don't take care of the pen, and then it'll block the ink flow for a while. But who knows, maybe there's a way to avoid that. I'm missing a bunch of chats, I'm sorry. Project Angerman, Steven, have you seen Daniel Warren's latest work? I think you will like it, as in Dave Raposa's buddy. Yeah, I think I saw he posted like a Elden Ring poster that he did, right? It looked dope. It looked really dope. I think it was for a t-shirt, right? Pretty sick t-shirt. Pretty sick t-shirt. What are the most memorable reactions you got from people to your art? Memorable. I don't know. I mean, people are very kind, very complimentary a lot of the time. I think my work is very weird, and a lot of people, unless they're sort of into design and drawing, they don't quite know what to make of it, you know? So, I don't know. They usually just comment on, holy shit, it's very well drawn, and then, you know, they'll usually say like, ooh, it makes me nervous, or something like that. Stephen, about rendering form, I think I'm getting subconsciously influenced by you because I'm focusing on form way more in my sketchbooks these days, but it's also fun, so it's fine. That's good. You know, you cycle into things, you get very interested, and then you move past them. Nothing wrong with spending some time in love with form. N. Schaefer says, any tips for getting better at copying negative shapes from reference? Right now I tend to outline around them, so I don't make marks there while drawing, but it always looks bad. No, that's a pretty specific thing. I don't know, that practice actually sounds like it'd be pretty good. You'll just need to work out of it at some point, but it'll come naturally. I think once you've sort of gotten what you needed from practicing that, you can sort of naturally start leaving it behind. Do I have a piece of paper anywhere to put under my hand? Yeah, whatever. These are rather squat. Maybe let's try some more towering things. But I feel like squat is the way to go to keep it feeling a little bit more reasonably low tech, you know? I feel like some of the skyscraper-y stuff going on here is, well, let's explore, but I don't think that's where I want to go. Dash says, do you think Picasso would like your drawings? Absolutely not. No way. I think Picasso would think I'm way too commercially influenced. That little figure there got too tall. That's not gonna work out for me. Let's try some new ones over here. Hi, Stephen. I love your art. Oh, thank you, Paladin. I've learned a lot from you by listening and watching your videos. I will buy one of your courses once I have the money to do so. You are a great man. Keep it up. Thank you so much, Paladin. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And I hope that if you do get the course, whenever you get the course, or any of my future courses to come, that it is very educational for you. If Steven was commercially influenced, he would be drawing the baddest anime waifus right now. If only. Why don't I have the courage to be more commercially influenced? Steven, what's your favorite fruit? By the way, how much do you miss Banana Bread Man? I miss him so much. I miss him so much. Probably bananas are my favorite fruit, probably. Is there any tripod you recommend? I'm back, right? It died, there was a problem, but this time it automatically reconnected. Am I okay? I don't know what's going on. Previous crashes, it would dump out completely and I had to reconnect manually. That time it just worked. And I'm risking it all today because my wife's working from home today, so she's out in the living room using the internet. Like, it's not ideal situation, so pressure test. BTT1216 says, Stephen Zapata, how do I impress the AD at a game studio 20 minutes from my house? He sent me a friend request online too. I need this concept art position. You got to impress them with great work. That's it. You just, there's nothing else to do but impress them with really good work, work that's relevant to their project. It's as simple and as complicated as that. The relevant to their project thing is what a lot of artists do not understand. You can't just show them that you're a great artist. You've got to present them with work that's like ideally exactly what they need for either their current project or their next project. So to some extent, it's always a crapshoot, you know? Aisha says, I'm a nurse who worked last night 12 hours and I'm about to do a double at 3 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Jesus. And I'm sketching Steven's hands, LOL. Fair to say I make my money and I draw. I should probably sleep after. Try to get some sleep. Try to get some sleep. You're out there working hard. You need sleep. I never would have thought that well, the point was to contribute with these streams to making people want to draw, but I never thought that I would also contribute my hands as a drawing subject. Do you recommend using those Michael Jackson-esque gloves when drawing? Only when working on a screen tablet. I don't use them any other time. When you're drawing on paper, if you're going over an area where, well, here with ink, even a glove isn't enough. If the ink's not dry, the glove will smear it. So the real solution with ink is you've got to wait. There's really nothing else you can do. But if you're working in pencil or something like that, you don't need the glove. You can just put a piece of paper under your hand and that'll protect a bit. But again, it's a bit. It's not, nothing's perfect. You know, piece of paper, glove, if the graphite's going to smear, it's still going to smear. It's just going to smear less. Has AI impacted you and your work since its boom in popularity since last year-ish? Oh yeah. well, it's impacted me personally because I got really involved with pushing back on it and things like that. So yeah, it's impacted my life very directly. My work, talking about like my commercial work career and all that, I had already started moving away from doing commercial work as much before AI. So I can't really speak to how much it has affected my commercial career or anything like that. But I have a lot of friends and acquaintances and connections in the commercial work field, and it has definitely affected them. I know through them that, yes, it is out there, and it is affecting. So you don't earn from art? Oh yeah, I do. Most of the money I've made in my life is from art. I'm very lucky in that regard. I started working in art commercially when I was 20. I think it was 20 or 21, and art has been the source of all my income, these many years since then, these 12 years since then. These many years. Daria says, hi, are you drawing from imagination right now? You betcha. Right now, yes. That I did from imagination. These I've done all from imagination. Yeah, none of these could have a direct reference, you know? But I have been looking at this kind of stuff over the past few days. I've been researching this stuff. I put a reference board together of a bunch of photos of Mayan architecture, art that other people have done based on Mayan work. Because this is for a project, you know, it's a design brief, so you got to do research and look at references. But I haven't been drawing much while looking at the references. That's how I tend to do things. I do a lot of research and I enjoy research, but I find looking at this point, and for my temperament, I find looking at reference while I do basic design sketches like this, I find it very distracting. I tend to do worse drawings. I tend to do better drawings of this type when I've got nothing open. Right now I've got nothing open. I'm not looking at any of my references, but I find that for me is a more relaxed and free way to design. And it's not like I was looking at the references, like I have that stuff floating around in my head, but I usually do better drawings if I'm spending more of my time looking at the drawing rather than looking at the references. Steven, do you sometimes do under drawings first? Yeah, if I was trying to do like a tight ink drawing, I wouldn't resist doing an under drawing. But my tendency is to enjoy just doing one or the other. I like to do either a pencil drawing or an ink drawing. And it's like something that I start in pencil, I'm gonna tend to wanna finish it in pencil. And my fountain pen is just like such a joyful, free sketching experience that I don't really feel the need to have a tight underdrawing underneath it. But I'm not trying to finish any of these in any tight kind of a way, so that all makes a lot of sense. It's all tracking. Stephen, do you ever deal with inner resistance in all capitals? Very, very formal inner resistance. I oftentimes feel like I have the gas and brakes pushed at the same time, which lead me to not be able to take action. Yeah, we all deal with that, but you've got to correct that, you know? It doesn't ever go away completely, but I do think you can get to a point where inner resistance won't keep you from sitting down and drawing. You can definitely build a habit where even if you're in just experiencing a lot of resistance, you realize that it's totally possible to sit and draw and resist. You know, you can still get drawing time out of it. You're just sitting there resisting the whole time. A lot of people can't stand that. They find the energetics of their negative emotions very compelling, and that makes a lot of sense. But you've got to remember that in most cases, no matter how intense your emotions are, they are clouds in the sky. They will come and go. They're insubstantial. They feel very real and they come with a story, but they're just energetics. They're just qualia sparkles in the mystery that is consciousness. When you connect with them on that level, I mean, you can be crawling in your skin, freaking out, wanting to run for your life, and just be like, sure, but I can still sit here. It's not gonna kill me, you know? It's not gonna kill me. If you have a full-blown panic attack and you go to the hospital with it, what happens? They don't do anything. You know, they'll give you a Xanax to help you calm down, but the Xanax isn't doing anything about the panic attack, really. You know, it's just a wave that comes and goes. Don't listen to me, I'm not a doctor. You know, nothing's gonna hurt you while you draw. How do you deal with repetitiveness? I don't know, I don't mind it. I mean, you gotta remember, you've gotta tune your art practice so that it's fun, right? You can't be wasting your time doing art if it makes you miserable. So if you tune that correctly, what's the problem with what you're repeating? You're repeating something fun, right? That's a good thing. Hello, Nick. Stephen, is it through experience that you don't look at the reference while drawing? Would you recommend that new artists look at reference more? If you're new, yeah, but that comes with a really heavy caveat of if what you want your art practice to be is that you draw from your imagination, if you know that's what you want, you need to practice that all the time. So the more there is doing a really heavy lift. There would be a tendency amongst artists to hear me say, yeah, new artists should look at reference more. There'd be a tendency to interpret that as new artists should just look at reference and they're not ready to draw from imagination yet. That I think is completely wrong. I mean, look at reference maybe more than a very experienced artist would, but if you want to be an imaginative artist, you must always use your imagination. If you want to work in a way that reference can't help you with, right? You want to do stuff that there can't be references for, if you want to invent things, if just for your fun, you want to feel completely unencumbered, and you want to work completely from your mind, you must always be practicing that from day one. I don't think there's ever a good reason to not rehearse that if you know that that's what you really want. Do you listen to classical music? I mean, every now and then. Not really. My main musical rotation is Mastodon and Ariana Grande back to back to back to back to back. You know, we're gonna do Motherlode, and then Positions. We're gonna do Steam Breather, and then 34, 35. Has AI made it harder for artists to get entry-level art jobs? It's made it harder for artists to keep jobs. There's been studios that have liquidated most of their art team on the promise of AI. They're gonna have to bring them back, I bet. Once they realize that the current paradigm of AI is not quite ready to replace a team of artists, but that doesn't mean they didn't do it. Give me a second. There's a commotion going on outside. Let me check what that is. One moment, please. Sorry, I was pretty sure I had unmuted, but I was still muted. I don't know how long was it. What'd I say? Right, I said my neighbor downstairs, I think, is vacuuming his apartment. So sorry if you can hear that. And I was reading Nick's message. Let me reread that as soon as I can find it. Where did that go? All right. Nick says, Stephen, on that subject, I think there is the misconception that creative artists just have ideas and then put them on paper. That is true in some cases, but mostly it's just starting to draw and develop ideas as you work. Yeah, I mean, people who don't draw really look at art in a bunch of wrong ways. They just don't understand, you know, that it's a craft, and if you've never, you know, what do I know about planing chairs? Nothing, right? I mean, that's a craft, and I just could have any made-up misconception about how to do it. Drawing's the same way, you know? It's just people don't know anything about it. It's not something that is explained in school unless you are someone who draws, right? Like, it's not something that gets explained in books, you know? It never gets brought up in popular culture or anything. It's a these days, it's actually a very, very niche thing. It didn't used to be that way. I mean, there were times in history where an educated person was expected to have an education in drawing. That was actually part of being educated, you know, pre-camera. It was, well, they talk about all sorts of ways, but it was a way to connect with the way the world actually looked and to understand aesthetics and things like that. It was just a base part of a hoity-toity rich person's education. That is not the case at all anymore. People don't know anything about drawing unless they're interested in drawing and are someone who draws, usually. So the commotion was a vacuum? Yeah, I thought my wife was vacuuming something, which she knows I'm streaming, so if she was vacuuming, that would have meant something went horribly wrong. So I went out to see what it was, but it wasn't her. I mean, you could probably hear it right now. I mean, to me, it sounds like someone's knocking on my walls. That's why I thought it was in my apartment. Stephen, have you ever dealt with physical discomfort while drawing? I've recently had muscle spasms on my back by working out after drawing. 6 hours straight, and now I have to be mindful while drawing. Yeah, I'm very lucky. I haven't had much physical discomfort related to drawing. But you need to take care of your body. Do not push it. Draw less. I mean, there's really no good reason to push yourself into places of discomfort while drawing unless you do it for work and you have to, you know? James says, typical married guy blaming everything on his wife. I did assume it was my wife, but I was relieved to find out that it was not. I'm gonna pull up my board. Speaking of references, I'm gonna pull up my reference board real quick. And look at some of these ruins I've pulled and just see if anything inspires me. I have a bunch of good shots of details, architectural details, but overall building structures, not a lot of variety in the realm of photographs. It's mostly pyramid-like structures. I have Ennis House by Frank Lloyd Wright on here. I could try something like that. Yeah, I don't have a lot of good references for overall building layout, just good references for architectural details, wall trims, cool sculptures. A problem for the next reference hunt, for the next research session, not a problem for now. All right, I'm going to close that again, because as I said, I get very distracted looking at references while I draw. Guillermo says, hey, Stephen, any tips on how to efficiently practice drawing the same head in different angles, like in those character concept sheets? It's a very specific thing to practice. Now, I don't think there's, the most efficient practice there would just be to do that exercise, do that task over and over again, as is the case for most things in art. You know, there's for sports, the idea of specificity is like, you should practice the thing you're actually gonna do. It froze? Am I back? I think I'm reconnected. I don't know what's wrong with my streaming's all fucked up lately. I'm sorry. It's better than it used to be. At least now it's auto connecting. The crashes last week were not auto reconnecting. And when it reconnects, I still have 0 drop frames, and my timer isn't restarting, so that's good. Maybe it's just because my wife's working out in the living room. Pressure test for the stream. In athletics, the principle of specificity is that you should practice what you're actually going to do. So it's like, if you're trying to train for the 100 meter, you don't do a bunch of other things that aren't the 100 meter, you run the 100 meter, you know? I think it's the same thing with something like doing heads in a turnaround or something like that. You're wasting your time trying to do some other thing that's going to make you much better at that. It's such a specific task with so many contingent properties that the best way to practice it is to just do the actual task over and over and over again. James says efficient and art is an oxymoron. Yeah, it's still art. If it was perfectly repeatable, if it was easy to do, if there was just an A to B path on anything in art, that part would sort of stop being art. And in this day and age, it would have been automated immediately. It's an amazing thing to talk and watch experts with ease. How would you recommend balancing looking up and finding things out for yourself? I feel like I've lost something not discovering it myself. I think for technical questions, there's not much of a good reason to not look it up, so long as you don't take any answers that you find as ultimate, you know? If you just don't understand at all how light works, look up how light works, right? Or take a course on it, a class. Just never get solid on it. Never be like, all right, well, this is the end all be all of the answer. Like this is just objectively what light is in art or something like that. Like that's always wrong. But as long as you remember, as long as you have that little disclaimer in the back of your head always, yeah, I think there's not really a good reason to not look up technical stuff like that. In terms of designing things, like what you would research as opposed to trying to find the answer on your own, unless you are a genius, I don't think you should skip on research. I mean, the world is laughably more extreme, psychedelic, strange, and unbelievable than anything you can come up with. I mean, it's not even a fair comparison. And that makes perfect sense because, your mind is a product of the world. So it's just this little piece of this much greater thing. It wouldn't make any sense that it could sort of be grander than the thing it's a part of. Yeah, you're fooling yourself if you think in a design context that you can, like a random bee will be cooler and weirder and more thoughtful than the strangest thing you could sit and world build, in your fucking private Wikipedia page that you keep or whatever. It's just not gonna happen. So yeah, unless you're a total freak, unless you're the best of the best, I don't think you should try to, in a design context, I don't think you should try to figure everything out yourself. It's like, what are you gonna, what are you gonna do? I gotta draw a boat. I can't research boats. I'm gonna make up a boat from scratch. It's like, you're gonna not make a boat. You know, boats are they're constrained by real physical things that you don't understand, and hydraulics and physics and things like that. You're never gonna invent that stuff, And it usually works out better to invent that stuff after you're very well versed in it, because you actually know where the bends that you make would be interesting rather than being nonsensical. Tato says, hey Steven, sorry if this has been asked before, but have you ever played around with the pace you draw at? Yes. Gone slow, gone fast. All sorts of stuff. I mean, going fast makes you sort of more intuitive. You do strange things because you're rushing. It makes it harder to solve design problems. You could do the easy stuff faster, but anything that's hard you should slow way down for. However much you think you need to slow down for the hard stuff, you need to slow down twice as much. Damn, the brutalist architecture stuff is hard to draw, man. You gotta slow way down for that stuff. High precision. Do you dream a lot, Steven? Not much. Not much, not more than anybody else. see I'm buffering. I don't know. I don't know how to tell anymore. I'm not getting any frame drops. I don't see, my connection looks good on my end. Fingers crossed that my new settings, you know, because I messed with my bitrate over the, not over the weekend, but since Monday when I streamed last. I did a bunch of test streams, messed with my bitrate, tried to make everything consistent. Let's hope these settings are actually good and the drops we're getting are just from me trying to share my connection with my wife right now. And that when she's, again, I'm blaming my wife, when she's not here working. Hopefully everything will be good. I gotta figure this out. Next step, if the next stream we do when I'm home alone, when I have my internet all to myself, if that crashes again, we're switching encoders. That's the next step. I'd rather not, though. I really like this encoder. I feel like for this bitrate, the 4K footage looks really good for this bitrate on this encoder. Who knows? I haven't tried the other ones, so maybe they're just as good. Have you dabbled into pixel art, Steven? Not really. When I was a kid, but not as an adult. What's up?
For my aligners.
Your what?
Aligners?
Oh. Not in the bathroom?
No.
I'm sure you made up your own Robot Masters or Maverick, Steven. I sure did. I mean, what would I be doing if I wasn't? What would be the point? Is there a mech Steven out there? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by that? I mean, is there a robot version of me somewhere out in the multiverse? I mean, without a doubt. Beginning says, out of your head is what out of my head? The Robot Masters? Optimus Steven. I think Optimus is too just. I think Mecha Steven might be a Decepticon, dude. What you're drawing? Oh, yeah. This is all out of my head. Yes. Yes, indeed. Just sketching. When you're looking for a form language, I think you need to feel free, unencumbered. You just need to be patient, you know? It's not going to come right away. I just find when you look at a reference, it's almost impossible to not copy it. Like, you need to be very, very conscious to not just wind up copying it. And if I'm not in a state to trust myself to be that conscious about it, I would rather just not have anything up. But as I said before, that doesn't mean you never look at reference, you know? It's like you still collect things and look at things, just you look at them and then you put them away, and then you look at them and then you put them away. Are you familiar with Jaw Cooper, Stephen? Yes. Been studying her animal drawings and it blows my mind. What's your favorite wildlife artist? Yeah, she's awesome. Favorite wildlife artist? Joe Weatherly's book was very useful to me back in my learning years. I forget what it's called. The Weatherly Guide to Drawing Animals, maybe? I learned a lot from that book. Alfred Munnings, who was a horse painter. I always really liked his paintings. Very, you know, they were not straightforward portraits of horses. I mean, they were definitely horse paintings, but they were paintings first. You know, they were very well constructed, beautiful compositions, beautiful light, great color. Really nice structure on the horses. Good anatomy. I can hear my wife on a call out there, so, you know, if we dump out right now, then we know it's about sharing my internet. Stephen, do you know Detroit-based artist and illustrator Francis Vallejo? Yes. Francis is very good. I like how experimental he is. I don't know if he would think of his work as experimental, but he does a lot of very unique stuff. I think it's very cool. Artists like Francis and, you know, like Sterling Hunley, Mark English. Their experimental stuff is always very impressive to someone boring like me. You know, I don't do anything experimental. I just draw, you know. This is becoming more of an abstract rather than a building. This doesn't really feel like a building. But that's all right. Abstracts are a great way to familiarize yourself with a form language. You're just sort of freed from content and you're just really trying to wrap your head around if this, then that, if this, then that, if this, then that. If curve here, straight here. If repetition here, economy here. If variety here, repetition here. If contrast here, low contrast here. Decepticon Steven name suggestions, ink wave, shock line, form dread, hard guide. Hard guide. Those are very good, Simon, very good. See, my wife's on a work call and stream is not dumping out. So that makes me worry that indeed our tech problems continue with stream. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna fix this? I've had a spat of tech problems lately. Just stream, I can't figure out. My TV just broke overnight. Just completely stopped working, turning on, no power getting to it. Samsung was just like, yep, it's fucked. We gotta go put in a new motherboard. I think I must be emitting some tech killer waves for some reason. I think I gotta go to the local psychic. Have them burn some sage, purify me. That should make stream work again. When things get weird with a drawing, you might as well just make them weirder. Do you think your name affects your personality in any way? I'm not really superstitious like that, but I got to admit, the way some people's names fit either what they pursued in life or their personality is uncanny. I think there must be something to nominal determinism. It might just be like a tiebreaker kind of a thing where all else the same, you might like pick one career over the other because you're like, but it would be funny if I was a marine biologist whose last name was Fish, you know? There might be something like that going on, either consciously or unconsciously in people's brains. Jenny Craddock says, I learned my house is basically a Faraday cage. Didn't know what that was until everything tech started going to shit. Awesome. Do you get cell phone reception? That'd be awesome to live in a house with no cell reception. Wow, the freedom, the freedom. I have these days where I would spend whole day troubleshooting a PC problem that has not much effect on my work. Oh, same. Absolutely the same. I'm a frantic troubleshooter. And I'll sit there doing it being like, you've got to stop, Steven. You've got to let it go. You've got to get to work, and I'll just keep testing, testing, testing. It sucks. What do you use to organize your references? PureRef. PureRef is a lightweight little pin board kind of a software. You can get it for PC, Mac. They ask for donations, but you can get it for free. I really like PureRef. This is kind of a completely, I haven't tried anything like that yet. It's kind of interesting, but I think more alien than what I would like to wind up doing with this. But I haven't done anything like that. It's weird because that's just like very much the form language of a lot of stuff in some of my references, but blown up at that scale, it's just kind of, it gets too alien. But yeah, it doesn't look like anything else in these pages, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that, but that was trying to wrap some structures around a tree. That's a very different idea. I gotta go drink some water, says Beginning. You go do it. Do you think your name affects your personality? We got to that. Someone broke into Keanu Reeves' place and stole a firearm? Do not do that. Do not do that. Try to not do that if you can. Stephen, not to add to your tech superstition, but I've also experienced the same in life. Either all of my tech is working fine or everything starts breaking down all at once. It is weird. It seems to come in waves. When it rains, it pours. It really feels like a real thing. I need to stretch. The AI decided you're getting too much traction attacking it. Gotta cut off the anti-AI rhetoric. Seems doubtful. I mean, the art is in nature abstract. We just try to make it familiar to ourselves with shapes of things we know. Yeah. It's all just dust on paper, ink on paper. Not enough people support their local psychics these days. Yeah, I gotta go help my local psychic, for real. Is your real name something like Narcissus Maniacal Disorderous? Very funny, hello there. You're gonna regret that one day. You will regret that, mark my words. Change your handle as much as you want. You're marked. You are marked. I will not let such a slight go unpunished. That I can promise you. Goodbye, Daryl. Thank you, Splinter Seller. It's a funny name. Exactly, can't sit around. Something inside us wants to fix these computer thingies. Creepy. No, you get locked in. You gotta, the numbers. You gotta open the lid. You gotta look in there. You gotta fuck with the wires. Stephen, about this name thing, weirdly, all other Anarood I personally know about, incidentally, all of them turned out to be artists, drawers, designers, and authors. I swear I'm not lying. That's very weird. So I shall hunt down all of them so only I can be the only Anarood artist drawer. You gotta hunt him down. Get rid of him. There can only be one. Stephen is a very banal name. I don't know what the hell my name says about me. I don't really identify with the Stephen part of my name. Is that watercolor? Which? That's marker. That little bit of tone there. That's marker. That's a soft copy of a, what's his name? Christian Schlenewetter? He's a viz dev, a visual development artist in animation. God, I forget how to pronounce his name. Or he used to be. I don't know if he does anymore. I think he might have gone to fine art. Someone in stream probably knows what I'm talking about. He worked on Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado. Kristen Schlenewetter? Anyway, that doesn't look exactly like the picture I was looking at, but that's like a soft copy. He did this really cool overhead, like watercolor painting maybe for Road to El Dorado. That was just like really abstracted and graphic, you know, there was no like horizon line or anything. I should probably do some more overheads. Look at these buildings from another angle. Yeah, I agree. My goal is to draw from imagination. I'm still learning a lot from the teacher, but he definitely has a strong, if you want to be a professional artist, you must use reference. Well, again, like I've said, they're not wrong, right? Like if you want to be a pro, you will have to spend a lot of time using reference and looking at it. The point I'm trying to make is just don't only do that. You must always keep up the drawing from imagination as well, because otherwise you won't actually be rehearsing drawing from animation. Stephen, do you have any thoughts about water-soluble graphite? I have tried it before, but I personally don't like it. It's a little too hard to control. It's too unpredictable for my taste. Let's do some rougher ones. I'm drawing a little too carefully, I think. Let's let go a little bit more. It's very useful when you're looking for design ideas to draw very ugly. You can use ugly lines, be sloppy, and still find an arrangement that looks good, even though you're drawing ugly. That's usually a good sign. That means the overall arrangement is interesting. Someone in the chat earlier was asking about, do you ever play with the speed you draw at? There you go. I do that all the time when I'm designing. Draw sloppy, draw careful, draw sloppy, draw careful. I mean, design is iteration. You know, it's doing many drawings. And you just want to knock your brain around in as many different ways as you can. Draw fast, draw slow, close your eyes, draw drunk, do whatever it takes. Some people draw drunk. I'm not advising anybody to draw drunk. I'm just saying people do it. I don't. I personally don't like it. People ask me all the time if I draw on drugs and things like that, and I don't, I get too distracted if I'm altered in any way. I find it's very unpleasant for me to draw under any influences. I prefer to draw sober, but that's not everybody. Boxer Wing says, I'm looking to start my own art channel in the new year. Wish me luck. I'm wishing you luck, baby. Get it. Ooh, oh, I got a good crack there. Oh, that felt good. Partho Roy says, hi, I'm a great admirer of your work. Love from India. Sending you love from New York. Thanks for being here. By the way, your Mayan stuff looks Mayan, yet somehow slightly sci-fi. Interesting. Thank you. That's what I'm going for. I'm trying to bend it in a particular direction. I'm still exploring directions, but yeah, it's supposed to be Mayan influenced, but different. Steven, I think I'm getting good enough to start a social media sometime in the future. Any advice you can give? I've never had socials before. You don't have to wait. Just start it. There's no like good enough to start a social media. Just go ahead and start it. If you think it's sometime in the future, it's now. Just go ahead and do it now. Steven, do you have any thoughts about water? Oh no, I already answered that. I really want to try Copic markers, but holy shit, they're expensive. They are. They're very expensive. There's a lot of cheaper alternatives now. You could try those. Water-based markers are really good too. I like the Tombow markers. Yo, Steven, how do you remind yourself that you're worth it and enough? I struggle with that even though I've achieved a lot. Oh, that's a big question. I mean, that's therapy stuff, you know? You got to go on a personal inner journey there. And be slow to trust thoughtless answers from dudes on the internet like me. You know, it's just, that's such a deeply personal and complex thing that I think you need to run that. You need to run that system with yourself, very intimately with yourself. A lot of silence, meditation, things like that. Therapy, you know, get a therapist who pays attention, you can have a long relationship with, if at all possible. Talk to your friends about stuff. I think the old saying, you know, would that I could see myself with the eyes of others, that kind of thing. I think that's a good foundation for most people struggling with this problem. You're just, for most people, if you investigate yourself, you'll find that you are just way meaner to yourself than you would ever be to anybody else. And you would certainly never say it's a good idea. If you were talking about another person, you'd never say it's a good idea for them to treat others the way you treat yourself, think about yourself. It's just like, you've got to create that distance for yourself and kind of treat yourself as you would a stranger or a friend or someone that you love, you know? Let me look at Ennis House again. I don't think I had any photos that show the layout of Ennis House. Let me Google Ennis House overhead. Oh, it's very square. Very straight kind of layout, actually. Yeah, it definitely looks better from the curb than from overhead. Yeah, not too much to go off of there. I do not like the overhead layout of that. Frank Lloyd Wright was the best. All right, I'm gonna save a couple of those so that I have them, and then I'm going to close this again. Right after one more glance at the curb appeal. All right. What's better in your opinion? A ton of fast-paced drawings or sporadic, well-crafted ones? Well-crafted ones. Oh, I see. Sporadic, well-crafted, once in a while drawings. It depends what the end goal there is. I would say for most people, probably sporadic, well-crafted ones would make you better or faster. People who, if the best thing is to do both, right? Which takes a lot of time, but if it's gotta be one or the other, sketching or finishing, people who obsessively finish picture after picture after picture tend to improve quicker and build careers faster than people who sketch obsessively. More fast drawings. Speaking of sporadic, let's do more fast drawings. But again, that's a generalization. It depends on the goal. If you know you want to be a designer instead of like an illustrator or something like that, then it's probably reversed. But these days, I feel like few people really want to be designers, you know? Most people just want to make pretty pictures, and they think they want to be like a concept designer or something like that, just because they've seen concept art online and it's pretty, and they're like, all right, that's a way to have a job and make pretty pictures, and they just don't actually know anything about what designing really looks like or feels like. And you know, God help them if they ever get the job, they're like, oh shit, I hate this. This is not what I wanted to do. Are careers even possible nowadays if you don't already have one? Yeah, of course. They're still out there. It's always hard to be an artist. I mean, there's never a time where it's easy. Now, there's probably shades, you know. I think there probably was times where it was easier or harder, but it was never easy. The way the elements occlude each other is kind of what you need to design in sketches like this. Very difficult. You think you're designing a building, but really what you're designing is perspective overlaps. You've got to find ways to make those interesting. That's what something like Ennis House does such a good job at. Frank Lloyd Wright, who probably enough good things have been said about him. The overlaps from the curb on these very basic shapes that make up Ennis House are just make it look more beautiful than just the brute facts of the cubes would make you think of it as. Has there ever been a drawing that you didn't want to finish because you were having so much fun? Any drawing that, any of like my really finished pencil drawings that just I pushed all the way, all of those, by the end of them, I don't want to finish them. For me to have got there, they have to have become very fun at some point, or else I would have ditched them. You know, I always find a way to make them very enjoyable. So all of those, they're all hard to finish. I need my wife behind me to hit my hand with a hammer and say, "It's done, asshole." I can never tell when I'm in the thick of it. At this point, I always rely on my wife to tell me when something's finished. I'm so deep in them by the end that I'm just completely lost in the sauce. I'm just like, you know. I'm not kidding. I'm like completely delusional about the drawings at that point. I have no idea. I've been staring at them for so long and I'm so deeply familiar with every inch of them that I have no idea when they're done. I couldn't tell you. All the way up until the end. On the last day, I'll still feel like it probably needs another 40 hours. You need someone else to tell you at a certain point. Let's see what I'm missing here. Goodbye, Renola. Have you heard the story of Quetzalcoatl? Yes. Question, what types of art styles are there? Infinite. Infinite. Hey, Stephen, do you tend to draw having already imagined what it is you'd like in your mind clearly, or do you draw more intuitively and feel what it is you're imagining? Most of the time, I have no clear image in my head. I'm just reacting to what goes down on the paper. If I do many of these, then I will build a familiarity, like all this, I had no image in my head, reacting to the lines, line to line to line. When I've done enough of these, that will produce a very clear mental image when I need it. You know, if I need to do a finished drawing, an archetypal design piece that's based off of all of this, then, because I've rehearsed so much, hopefully then I'll have a clear image, and then that I will try to manifest as directly as I can. But yeah, that's usually not until much further in the process for me. The beginning is always very intuitive, no image in my head. Did you ever play a game called Monkey Island? I have not. Your drawings here, the rounded shape, remind me of that game somewhat. Well, you know, Monkey Island is like an adventure game with like, they're on islands and there's ruins and stuff like that. That makes sense. A lot of these drawings are based on ruins. I was watching a live vid of yours and you were talking about love of drawing versus discipline. I'm worried that if I ditched the discipline, stopped forcing myself, I would probably end up drawing like 5 times less. What does that mean for me? Give it a shot. I mean, if you're drawing 5 times less, but you are enjoying it twice as much, you will probably produce drawings that are 20 times better. The ratios there could be quite unexpected, but you got to experiment with it. You got to explore. What do you recommend for an artist who has no education? I mean, all artists need to do some amount of self-teaching. Like, don't feel insecure about that. Just self-teach. Look stuff up online. Keep a journal. You know, that might be a good idea. That seems to help a lot of people. You know, keep some document where you jot down your eurekas about art. Because it's pretty easy, actually, to forget the things you've realized about art as the years go on. It's helpful, I found. I don't keep a journal these days, but I used to. And I found it was very useful to skim through it every now and then and remind myself of like, oh, right, yeah. You know, it kind of builds momentum again before a drawing session, reminds you of best practices that you have found or sort of click you into the work. No problem, Cursed Fetus. Thank you. I love drawing with fountain pen. It's a great sketching medium. Mr. Soon says, thanks. I'll try my best to start my socials as soon as possible, but I wanted to wait because my goal is education first. I've heard managing social media takes time and worry. If you're gonna do it like that, like treat social media as like a job thing, then yeah, it can be like that. But at the beginning, I mean, you know, social media is gonna be annoying for longer than it's gonna be fun. So if I were you, I would take advantage and take the little bit of time up front where it gets to be fun, right? Like, don't make it such a serious thing to begin with. I mean, it's up to you, but yeah, freewheel a little bit for a while. You can always get more serious later. Curse Fetus says, do you happen to dissolve your ego, your sense of time with drawing? There is no ego, and there is no time. Nothing is dissolved. You still streaming? Psh, I sure am. Hi, Stephen. Do you ever write as part of your creative process, even just for personal sake, like notes, thoughts? Yes, I write a lot. I write a lot. If you look at the YouTube videos that are on this channel, I mean, most of them, I wrote all that stuff out before I recorded the audio for the video. I do tons of writing. Stephen, are these sketches for anything in particular? Yep. For a project I'm doing with a friend of mine. It's hard to do a lot of iterations if you don't have a specific design goal in mind. I always need, it's got to be for something to investigate an idea with a lot of sketches, for me at least. Maybe some people would do a bunch of stuff like this just completely in abstractum, but I don't know, I find that really difficult. There's nothing to cling to, you know? I need like something I'm heading towards. Stephen, I've been having some trouble with perspective. I've just recently started to push the issue with characters in a setting in interesting perspectives, but I feel like when I try and do a perspective grid, the grids I make warp the drawing much more than I intend to. I don't know how to fix it. That is usually a problem with the cone of vision. So you should Google how to set a cone of vision, either working forwards or how to reverse engineer it from a sketch that you did. That'll fix it. Most people's, all right, this is definitely something you need to Google because this is a bit of a technical question that you need to explore on your own. But to give you a basic idea, most people, when, let's say this is your piece of paper that you're drawing on, most people don't draw on huge pieces of paper or huge canvases in the computer, right? So you have your horizon line there, and just basically out of necessity and impulse, people will put their vanishing points for their perspective grids on the page. And then what happens is that you're basically guaranteed to have a significant part of the perspective grid that you made on the page actually be quite skewed, right? So, if you're way out around the edges, even here, even way out here at the edges, by the time you get to the bottom of your piece of paper here, which you were probably planning on using, right? If I track that over here, that's like damn near a third of the piece of paper that I sketched here, right? This is out of the cone of vision. That's skewed down there. Anything that you put in that circular area, really anything you put in this bottom third, is going to be out of perspective. So the cone of vision, which again, you'll need to explore that on your own, is going to be the part of your perspective grid where objects that you place in it are not going to feel skewed. And the cone of vision for a perspective grid like this is somewhere here. That's the safe area. So I highly doubt, for most people who don't understand perspective, that they're going to intuitively keep their sketch on this big sheet of paper tight within that area. No way, they're gonna spill out everywhere else, right? So the solution is that if you're drawing on a regular piece of paper, if you want a decent perspective convergence and a wide cone of vision, your frickin' vanishing points need to be off the page. You can't be putting them on your page in most situations for gentle perspective. Then, as the whole perspective system has pulled back and gotten bigger, your cone of vision is going to be much more reasonable and take up more of the piece of paper. Now, there's much more technicals to this. You want to be able to control this, right? This all comes down to knowing how to set a station point. That's going to be down here. You're going to project these lines up. You're going to use a protractor, and you're going to be able to say that this cone of vision is exactly 30 degrees based on the station point, things like that. You're going to know that these are 90-degree vanishing points, again, coming from the station point. What do I mean by that? This is a sketch, so you can't really tell, but if I go back to the station point, if I go to VP1, VP2, imagine that's a perfect 90-degree angle. It's not that far off, but that would mean that those vanishing points are 90 degrees. Truly, you're making a real box, right? So you got to figure this stuff out. That'll help you control things better. And you even need to do this if you're in digital. If you were doing this on a computer screen, you need to do your perspective grid way out here, and then you need to crop down to this much smaller canvas size. Again, I know that was probably a lot to explain, but hopefully you see intuitively that the difference between this one and this one makes the safe area of the perspective grid much bigger on this canvas than it is on this one, right? So that's the solution that you're looking for, so that your perspective grids don't weirdly make your drawings look like shit, right? They're supposed to make them look good and right? Why do my perspective grids make my stuff look skewed and crazy? This is the solution that you're looking for. And all the technicals for that are available to you if you Google station point, how to set one up, how to understand it. I'll just write your keywords here. Station point and cone of vision. And again, remember, you can run this forwards and backwards. It's math, so math works in either direction. So you can either start with this and then draw inside of there, or you can free sketch and then you can reverse engineer the cone of vision and the station point based off of the perspective that you freehanded. Both work. Do you have any favorite comic artists? I don't really read many comics. I respect the greats as much as anybody else does, but I'm not really a big comics guy, That's my friend Joe. Joe's the comics guy, but I was never really big on comics personally. I've read famous stuff. I've read Watchmen, I've read V for Vendetta, I've read parts of Berserk, parts of Vagabond, things like that. Parts of One Punch Man. But yeah, it's just not really my medium, really. Yeah, I respect the greats, but that's probably not the energy you're looking for with a favorite, I don't really have a favorite. But will the VPs always be equidistant apart? No. So the thing is, See, this is all resolved if you understand how the station point controls the angles of the VPs. So if we do another piece of paper, let's say I have a vanishing point here, right? It's not off the page. I know that I want boxes sort of converging like this in the piece of art, right? So here's our station point. Here's our cone of vision. This is just a straight projection up from the station point. It's gonna come down like this, right? So this is VP2. I always do my VPs left to right. So if this is a box, you know it needs to have 90-degree angles, right? So we know the VP needs to make a 90-degree angle between VP1 and VP2. So that's gonna go whoo. So VP1 is somewhere way out here. So no, the VPs don't have to be equidistant in comparison to the frame of the paper, but the problem only gets more hairy, right? You just need more room off the page outside of the crop to get it right, the more you move one vanishing point in and out. Now, you don't need to have true 90-degree VPs, right? That's what happens when you start using fisheye lenses or really long lenses, right? You can do boxes and stuff like that on 60-degree angles, on 30-degree angles, but when you push it too much, that's when you know you're skewing, right? That's when it starts to get a little bit more difficult for the viewer to track and for you to track. But so yeah, they can turn, right? And this is how you do multiple rotations of 90-degree boxes in perspective, but that just means you need more room off the page if you want things to feel good. Would you ever do a perspective course? Probably not. I cover this stuff. Do I cover station point? No, I don't cover station point and cone of vision in Form from Imagination. I do a crash course on perspective, mostly for plotting shadows in Form from Imagination, but stuff like this, no, I probably wouldn't do a course just on perspective because I'm not known for perspective. I don't really think that's something people want to learn from me, right? The stuff people want to learn from me is more organic things and design stuff, I hope. But perspective, I don't really think anyone comes to me looking for perspective. So I would teach the parts of it that become relevant for a particular other thing that I'm trying to teach, but I don't really foresee myself doing a perspective course. All of this stuff this is just math. All of this stuff in the full detail you could ever want, which you don't want the full detail. It's all available for free on the internet already. You can find tons of, there's books that are 100 years old that have all of this, everything in them, and they're just free PDFs online. An example is, who's it by? Ernest Guptill. He's got a book called Perspective for Illustrators or something like that. It's an old book, it's free, it's got everything in it. Like, you don't need me to teach you this stuff. All this stuff is online already. Isn't this how camera lenses work? Yeah, camera lenses are, camera lenses are producing linear perspective just like our eye does, so it's the same. The station point you can think of as a camera lens, a viewer, the eye of God, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. It's just where you're viewing the image from. And the station point is a projection on the picture plane, that is to say, the plane of depth that the picture is happening on. I know this is complicated, I'm sorry. The station point is a projection on the picture plane of the distance between the crop of the picture and the eye of the viewer, the camera lens, whatever it is. It's all the same, it's just what is producing the illusion of linear perspective. isn't, I answered that. I've never heard of a station point before. I'm gonna look into that, and cone of vision also, and dig into it. Gentle perspective was another thing you mentioned. That's what I'm wanting to get at. Yeah, that if you want to control it and understand it, cone of vision and the station point is the way. That's the only actual mathematical way to explain what is controlled perspective, and to do it repeatedly. And you can actually get so precise with it, and storyboard artists do this, that you can literally draw scenes to match camera lenses, particular camera lenses, because you know, every camera lens, a 35 millimeter, a 50 millimeter prime, like all those things, they have particular cones of vision that they can see. You know, it's either extremely wide on a fisheye or very narrow on a long lens, a zoom lens, a telephoto lens. And those are just, they have particular angles, right? If you were a cinematographer, you would actually know them, and you can draw to the specifics of those lenses if you were so inclined. I mean, this is a bit of a lost art now, but I mean, it's just, this is what architectural draftspeople used to do back before computers were a thing. You could give them the blueprint of a building that was actually going to be built, and they could say, this is your building seen from 6 feet up, that is to say, like a person standing, 5.5 feet up, 6 feet up, and seen from 350 feet away. And it was correct. You know, it's just math. You know, there is one answer to what a wall of that height, seen from a human eye or from that distance, that high off the ground, there's just a definitive answer for what that is going to look like on a lens like that. And they knew how to do it, right? No one does that anymore. That's sort of a lost art, but there's just mathematical answers to all of that stuff. There's also mathematical, I mean, they did that with the perspective, they did it with the shadows. You know, an architectural draftsperson could tell you, this is your hypothetical building as it will look from across the street, 350 feet away, from 5.5 feet up on Wednesday, the 23rd of December. Like, you can actually, if you have the blueprint, you know where it sits on the compass, you use solar charts, and you can actually map the shadow direction line, the solar angle line, and you will get the exact shadows as they're supposed to hit on that building. And yeah, there's just mathematical answers for all of that. Have you seen Remedios Varo? Her and you are my role models. I don't know Remedios Varo. Are they a YouTube person? I don't know them. How powerful will it make me to understand perspective? I don't think these days, I think that's kind of a lost art for a reason. The truth is that you can install Blender, learn it, and create a mock-up of whatever your perspective problem is. Those three things: install it from scratch, learn how to use it, and create the mock-up and render it in less time than it takes to draft one perspective solution to one problem, assuming you already know how to draft in perspective by hand. The acquiring of the tool, the learning of the tool, and the application of the tool of Blender, of a 3D program, is faster than solving for one thing by hand, assuming you know how to do it perfectly. So I think there's a reason it's a lost art. I do think station point, cone of vision, how to rotate vanishing points, and the basics of plotting shadows, those things I think are relevant to everyone who likes to draw. And I think you should learn the basics of them because they're so foundational that they do affect the way you sketch and make you better at sketching. But the details beyond that, for most people, I don't think they're worth it in a practical sense. I know a lot of that stuff. I went through perspective boot camp with some of the best people of our generation for it. And I don't regret learning it. I like knowing all that stuff, but I don't regret it because I like the craft of drawing in the abstract. Like, I love it on its own. So I'm happy to learn useless things that I'll never apply just because I love drawing. I want to understand it on a weird, deep level. But that's just me. Most people are not like me. Most people are not interested in learning parts of drawing that they will never use. Most people are more goal-oriented. You know, they're especially starting out, they're like, I want to learn how to make a comic. I have a comic I need to make. I want to learn how to get the goddamn job. I want a concept art job so I can make money off of art. Most people are much more goal-oriented. They're not interested in learning stuff that's not applicable anymore. So yeah, I don't think the deeper level of stuff is really useful for most people now. But if you just love art on a level of interest, if you love drawing on a level of interest, I think you wouldn't regret learning it. It's fun stuff. It's weird stuff, you know? Hi, Joe. How you doing, buddy? I get it, just saying I've never had perspective explained in a way that made sense other than what you just said in the last few minutes. You should take a perspective class. I would advise, for most people who are interested in it, I would advise taking a class. Hand drafting perspective is very confusing. Even when you know it very well, it's very easy to make. Some people would disagree with me, but I don't think it would be many. Even if you know it very well, it is very easy to make mistakes that for all intents and purposes, you could never have reasonably been expected to catch. And you will be certain that you did everything right, and you will get an answer that feels right and looks right. No one would ever call you on it. And it's wrong. It's just wrong. And no one will ever know it's wrong. You won't know it's wrong because it's within tolerances. But perspective is math. It's just, there is a right or wrong answer, right? 3D modeling programs are the proof of that, right? That correct answer is not actually what you want out of art, right? But you don't want to be a 3D modeling program. Case in point, people edit their 3D renders. Very few people accept what they get out of a 3D modeling program. It's technically perfectly accurate, but it's not interesting to look at. It's not compelling. It's not a good piece of art. So that's not what you want. But on the perspective part of it, in a 3D modeling program, it's just math. It's going to be perfectly right. When you draft it by hand, you can feel like it's perfectly right, but you put the wrong line in the wrong place. You got confused for a second because there's all this stuff flying all over the place. You did everything right. You did your due diligence, an honest mistake, and it's wrong. It's just wrong. It looks fine, but it is not the correct answer. So drafting by hand is very difficult. If you want to learn it with a teacher. Take a class so that you can ask questions. It's very hard to learn from a book or in an asynchronous kind of way. You need some kind of feedback, and preferably a classroom environment where you can just ask on the fly what the hell is going on. How long have I not been drawing? I've just been talking for a very long time. It's cool to see you doing environments. Personally, I'd love to see more of this stuff. Great work. Thank you. I do a lot of environments, or I have. I mean, most of my, you guys probably know me for figure stuff and organic stuff, but the vast majority of my commercial work over the years has been environmental design. It's a valuable skill. There's very few people these days who are comfortable sketching environmental and building ideas, especially anything vaguely architectural. There's actually very few people comfortable doing that a lot, right? Like, just give me 100, you know, like
very few people are actually comfortable with that. It's still a very desired skill. There's a lot of people who do it in 3D now. That's different, you know, the sort of careful placement of architectural elements and all that. But nothing's as fast as drawing still, you know, just for getting the idea out. It's still a skill that the people who need it really need it. Hello, Koro. Hi, Omar. Omar says we got Wi-Fi in the machine shop. Wow, finally, you're not I was just telling Deirdre the other day that you spend all your time in that basement where no one can get in touch with you. That's finally not the situation anymore, huh? Nice. What's the weight of the paper in that sketchbook? I don't know. This is the Moleskine Sketchbook. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find quickly what the weight is. Maybe it says it on here. Nope. Nope, I don't know. Oh, yes. Yes, this is why you do 30 drawings and draw for 3 hours. This one shape. That's it. That was it. I found it. Yes. That I like. Yes, make the footprints triangular. Yes. God, I've got it. I'm sure I won't change my mind by the end of this drawing and move on to something else. That would be impossible. That could never happen. Are facts like perspective, anatomy, the modeling factors, etc., still considered as art? Elaborate. I personally don't. They are parts of art, but they're only parts of art for certain people. But yeah, I often say it when I talk about perspective on here. Not perspective, anatomy, like you mentioned. People conflate anatomy and figure drawing. And figure drawing is intrinsically artistic. There's no scientific aspect to figure drawing, except that figure drawing dovetails with anatomy. And anatomy is not really art, it's medicine, it's science, it's biology. It's just anatomy, strictly speaking, if you remove the part that overlaps with figure drawing, is just an objective list of the muscles on whatever animal you're talking about, right? The list of all the muscles, the list of all the bones, what connects to what the origin is, what the insertion is, and the shape of the muscles as constrained by their function, right? There's variation in reality to all of the muscle shapes. You know, people have bigger muscles, smaller muscles. Actually, they can be distorted in quite fascinating ways, but there is a sort of narrow, there's only so many ways they could vary because there are objective limits on the shape of each muscle, right? And when you get into the details of anatomy, you learn those things. But you can technically learn all of those things from a book with only words. That's the difference. You can learn everything about anatomy, top to bottom, from a book that doesn't have a single picture in it. It doesn't actually have anything to do with drawing. So if it's part of your art, then it's part of art. But is something like anatomy or perspective, strictly speaking, art? Not really. It's their own separate disciplines that happen to interact, happen to overlap and dovetail with the visual aspects of the world, which a lot of artists deal with, but not all artists, you know? I always found shape design to be more important than anatomical accuracy. Would you agree? Depends on the artist. There's no sort of generalizable way to say that one thing is more important than the other. I mean, you could do as many mental acrobatics as you want to try to make that the case. In the end, it'll always be to this artist. And that's it. Another artist can choose the exact opposite. Another artist could base their whole artistic career on the extreme accuracy of their anatomy while purposely foregoing any conscious attention to shape design. And they could make very interesting and compelling art. That's the way art is. You can't pin it down. That's why people keep doing it. If there was any way to pin it down, we would have stopped a long time ago. It would have been very boring. It would have got really boring really fast. Steven, I found the best art books ever. How do I know if I should buy them? I mean, if you think they're the best ones, buy them. Just, don't break the bank. I love Da Vinci's sketches. It's just so good. Those paintings look boring as fuck. What were people thinking? We probably do too much dunking on Da Vinci on this channel. I'm definitely a Michelangelo stan. I'm an unabashed Michelangelo simp. I always like to add a few trees to offset the rigidity of the architecture. Oh, I went through a whole cartridge of fountain pen ink. That's always a nice little sign that you did a good drawing session, right? I did it. Actually, that's probably a good cue for me to start thinking about signing off, because I've been streaming for, well, we just hit 3 hours, and you all know I broke my rule. I went over 4 hours of drawing today. It's time to put the pen down, Steven. But I probably did at least 20 minutes of just talking. At least 20 minutes of just talking on stream. You know I can't help but get into the minutia of perspective, so. Let's start wrapping it up here. I'll stay on for a few more minutes. If anyone has any last questions. And then I gotta go walk my dog. I gotta walk my doggy. Really need to walk my dog. I gotta walk my doggy. I really need to walk my dog. I gotta walk my doggy. Caravaggio. Da Vinci was overrated. You know, I think they're rating the wrong thing. Well, the engineering sketches are awesome. I mean, we don't use any of that stuff. But he was definitely a concept artist. He was definitely a concept artist. Finding artists today is a fecking CSI investigation every time? What do you mean, because of AI? Steven doing environments? What? What Joxima said, I always find that very funny, because like I said, most of my professional career has been environmental design. Even exteriors, less exteriors. I've done tons of, so many of my professional hours have been designing interiors. I'm a sick interior designer. Not in the classic sense of interior design. I don't know how to decorate a room, but a lot of my environmental work has been designing places you're actually in, you know? And a lot of exteriors, but interiors a lot. Suplex says, just in time to say bye and say no shadow of the Erd tree. God damn it. God damn it. Steven, if there was an artist from any period of history you could have a conversation with, who would it be? Yeah, I think Michelangelo would be a safe bet. Michelangelo. That would just be, even outside of the art, I just think as an era, like Renaissance Italy, I'm so fascinated by that time and that place already that it's not just because he's an awesome artist, but just like pick his brain about the time period and what it's like and all that. That would be enough. I think that's a pretty safe bet. If I actually had, if I was for real, if it could really happen, I think I would probably have to spend a considerable amount of time researching to find maybe what artist was witness to the most important historical event. And maybe even if I wasn't a big fan or knew anything about them, I might call them up just to pick their brain about the historical event, you know? Will you ever share some work-related drawings, or will they be secret forever? There's a bunch of my work stuff somewhere out. I mean, I took all that stuff off my website. It's just, you guys know me in a very current sense, you know? Like a lot of you, you know me from 2018 onwards or something, but I've been doing art for a very long time and working for a very long time. If you had known me before, if you'd gone to my website before then, my website is just my pencil drawings now, but if you'd gone to my website, you know, many years ago, my commercial work would have been on there. Stuff I did for Elder Scrolls, stuff I did for a bunch of environmental design stuff. Like I used to have a lot of World Expo stuff on my website. And I would swap things in and out and things like that, depending on gigs that I was looking for and who I was sending it to. But yeah, I did wind up, I don't share that stuff anymore because yeah, you should only share the work you are trying to get, you know, and I'm not really trying to get that work anymore. Invariably, if you put that stuff up, you'll get emails about it. You know, it's just, you know, it's just a little, the last time I shared some stuff from that era, like I remember it like clockwork. I had taken a bunch of stuff off and something came up. I was applying to something, and this was maybe like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that. And I put some of that stuff up on my website, and like clockwork, I got this email from these people who basically assumed I would do their job. And they were just like, it was just a really weird tone. They were like, we need your help with this. You're gonna do this. This is the deadline, and we've set up a call for us to give you the requirements. And they gave me the date and the time of the call. It's just like, it's not the energy I'm into right now. I don't like getting emails of people just assuming that they can decide my schedule for the next 2 months. That's not my energy anymore. So I don't share the stuff. I don't share that stuff. But yeah, it's not like it's not out there. It's around. Frank Lloyd Wright be the man you'd want to talk to? Frank Lloyd Wright, awesome. I want to read a biography of him. If anybody has read a good Frank Lloyd Wright biography and can recommend one, let me know. Even better, if you have read a bad one that you would recommend I don't read, let me know that too. Did you take those other drawings off your website because of AI? No. This was pre-AI. Yeah, like I said, your website, you should share the work you're trying to get. If you're not trying to get that work anymore, take it down. Because if you've got good work in that realm, people are gonna bother you about it. They're gonna send you offers and stuff like that. What kind of historical event? Art related? No, I mean like, has there been an artist present at some historical event that maybe we wanted to know more about or something like that? I think that would be good. Neil Kowalkowski gives $10. Thank you so much for the Banana Bread Memorial Foundation Fund. For the Memorial Banana Bread Memorial Foundation Fund and Scholarship, Neil Kowalkowski is officially being inducted at the Sustainer Benefactor level with his $10 donation. We're gonna make a beautiful monument, a huge monument. Why do I sound like Donald Trump all of a sudden? We're gonna make a beautiful monument. It's gonna be sterling, impeccably designed. We've already got big architects offering to design it. And I don't mean like big, like popular, I mean big architects like Bjarke Ingels Group, the most premier architects in the world. They have already agreed to build and build the Memorial Banana Bread Memorial Foundation Fund and Scholarship memorial structure. And right at the top, at the very top of whatever it is they design, I don't want to give them, I want them to have their opportunity to just express their artistry, right? So I don't want to put my ideas out there just yet. If they want, if they want to bring me into a brainstorming session, I'll offer it. But right now, I just want to leave the canvas totally blank for Bjarke Ingels Group. And whatever they build, right at the top, a place of prominence, sustainer level contributors. The first one at the top is going to be Neil Kowalkowski. It's going to be etched in by stone, by hand. Again, it's just an initial first idea that we're going to have people carve by hand the contributor's name into stone. If Bjarke Ingels Group has a different idea, then we're going to go with that, right? But somehow we're going to get Neil's name up there big, really big, important, or interestingly small, right? Maybe it would be an interesting idea to have the names written super tiny, so you have to put in a lot of effort, right? Maybe you need to scale this structure to like get right up on it. And then, you're like, I want to know the names. I want to know the sustainer level contributors to the Memorial Banana Bread Memorial Foundation Fund Scholarship memorial structure. And I got to get up there and I got to get out maybe a microscope to read these names with how small they've been written. Yeah, so obviously big stuff is in the works. I know that Banana Bread would have loved it. He really would have appreciated everything that we're going to do in his memory. And I just hope that you all get to come and see it wherever we build it, possibly Fiji, maybe Antarctica, maybe right on top of where they found the wreck of Ernest Shackleton's Endurance. I think Banana Bread would really like that. I'm sorry, I should probably go. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think I can keep streaming. I'm gonna go, everybody. I just really miss my friend. Good luck if you're drawing today. May you have many happy lines. Don't take any of your moments on this planet for granted, okay? Yeah, I'm gonna go. Take care, everyone.